Welcome to the Success with Jewelry podcast, where we invite you inside our conversations about business success and marketing for jewelry designers and entrepreneurs.
We're Laryssa and Liz, jewelry marketing experts with a combined 16 years of experience in jewelry marketing and proven track records in helping jewelry brands meet their goals. When you listen to or watch this podcast, you get an intimate and exclusive peek behind the curtain of all the things you wish you could know about earning success in this industry.
Welcome to episode 82. In this episode, Laryssa and I are going to be chatting with jewelry designer and Pinterest expert Andrea Lee, also known as the Red Pin Geek. She'll be answering some of our questions about the platform and discussing Pinterest's powerful traffic referral abilities. In the bonus content of this episode, we'll share current best practices. Hey, Laryssa and Andrea, let's get into it.
Yes, this is very
Yes.
exciting today.
It's very exciting. Why don't we start with, because Andrea, Laryssa and I have tried to cover this topic before, but I don't think that we have a full understanding of the platform. So first, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and share how you got into Pinterest.
Absolutely. So I have a tendency to go all in whenever I'm learning something new that could potentially help my business, and Pinterest is really no different. So when I first started exploring Pinterest, I had already shifted my focus to online selling after completing Flourish and Thrive signature course, laying the foundation. I think I was among the very first early adopters when they first launched that course. So we've had a relationship for many years now, and it inspired me to set up my first e-com site. But just to like back up and give you a little bit of context, before I sort of made that shift to online sales, I was really motivated to do that, because a lot of the traditional channels, I had been really burned by. I had been burned by wholesale, a really well-known high-end gallery that carried my line with really great success, secretly filed Chapter 11 while owing me over $10,000 in artist commissions. So that was like a really ouchy moment. And then a lot of the in-person trunk shows and fairs were mostly misses because of my price points. I mean, people tend to not really be comfortable spending over $50 when they're at like a craft fair or whatever. And so those were just really not great fits for me. And they always left me super exhausted and mentally and emotionally drained. And so that was not a great fit. And then I even explored being a featured designer on a luxury cruise. And that nearly bankrupted my business. And I almost lost all of my inventory, which was tied up in customs for nearly a year after I returned, which was super stressful.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was awful. And then to add insult to injury, during my time overseas doing this cruise, fraudulent charges completely drained my entire bank account, my business bank account. So bad experiences with like all the traditional channels that jewelry designers typically explore for sales. So taking my business online was really, really appealing because I felt like I could control the outcome of that way better than any other outlet. So, but the only problem was that at the time I had very little knowledge about digital marketing, especially how it applies to product sellers. Because back then, most online educators taught strategies for service providers and course creators. And I only mention this to give you guys hope. So anyone who's feeling really tech challenged, because online marketing does require a certain acumen of being tech savvy. But if someone like me can learn this, it gives you guys hope that anyone can pick this up. It just takes a little bit of dedication and time commitment. But I just did want to throw that out. But so anyway, going back to your original question, Pinterest was really attractive to me because how visual the platform was. And I also use the platform to browse products as well. So I was like, all right, this is a platform that I love to use. It's extremely visual, so it's going to be great for jewelry. So I signed up to get an account audit with a thorough checklist of recommendations, and I just went to work. I went to town on my account, and all the efforts from my activity on my Pinterest profile at the time caught the attention of the internal teams at Pinterest. And I was invited to participate in their beta testing program for a new product that they were working on for release called Story Pins. That product was later renamed as Idea Pins. But I was one of the first people to be brought in to really use it. And so again, like I said earlier, I go all in with anything. And so I went all in when I got invited to be a beta tester, and I created just a ton of content, and just feedback sessions constantly, with their development teams, doing fireside chats within the organization on my experience using the platform. And so all this led to being invited to Pinterest headquarters in San Francisco, to give a presentation to their employees for their annual conference, NitCon, and to participate in their curated creators conference, where they selected 12 creators, from the platform, to help guide them with the direction. They had a lot of ideas that they wanted to pitch to us, basically to be like, is this useful? Do you think people will use this? So got to participate in that. And that sort of just, that whole relationship with Pinterest sort of just, I mean, it was like, man, I'm hitching my wagon to this company. This company is awesome. And so that's sort of how all of that started. And let's see here. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
Oh my gosh.
That's
I've heard
freaking
this,
awesome.
right? I've heard this before, but Laryssa, like, how crazy is that?
I love a company that really like values the user experience, and that hearing all of this stuff about how they invited you to like give feedback on new features they were testing, like that gives me so much respect for the platform. And to hear your story and how, you were just trying to build your small business, and they were interested in your experience.
Yeah, and we continue to have a relationship. I'm one of the Pinterest pioneers inside their Pinterest business community. We just moved platforms. But I'm one of the moderators in there, sort of answering questions, welcoming new members, giving tips of how to be successful with Pinterest marketing. And then we also, as part of this cohort program, we get access to a lot of features that they're in beta test as well. So I've just always had this ongoing relationship with Pinterest, offering feedback, working with their internal teams, and they just, there's such a great company. I just feel like the company culture there is really amazing. I do love how Pinterest is a place of positivity. I mean, they really foster that. They have like a creators code. They will shut you down if you are not following the rules. So it's just a really great place to sort of go. It's sort of the only place on the internet that you can go and everything is just positive. There's no like politics or negativity or trolls. It's just a really
Yeah,
positive place. So
that's so
Totally.
true. I never really thought about how there's no trolls on Pinterest, but it is true.
It's
exactly.
interesting with like Instagram right now, which we talked about a few episodes ago. It's kind of like, where do we go? Like where can designers go to promote their product? And one of them that comes up is obviously Pinterest. So why do you think designers should consider Pinterest and adding it to their strategy?
So, I'll be honest, the prestige that came with all of those opportunities that I mentioned of how I got into Pinterest was really great. And that felt really good. But it wasn't until I saw my traffic numbers skyrocket with traffic referrals attributed to Pinterest that I really realized the real value of the platform. And so, not only just that positive experience with Pinterest, but then also like the fact that the platform like was working to send traffic to my website. And this is, remember, at the time when I had just like sort of fired up my first ecom site, I was trying to get traffic to my site at all, which is, I think, when you first fire up a website, it takes a while to sort of like build, get Google to recognize it, to index your pages, and for you to start getting traffic. And so when I saw the numbers that Pinterest was driving to my website and how it completely altered forever my analytics on my website, like that's when I was like, okay, this is not just a pretty face. This is like a very functional piece of my marketing diet. So like a few things I should mention, just like as far as like the results that I saw from my Pinterest efforts. My website visits went up 182% year over year. My unique visits went up 174% year over year. My page views went up 53% year over year. My overall traffic growth growth was 8x. The units I sold went up 250% year over year. My revenue went up 71% year over year. My conversions rate went up 800% year over year. My average order value went up 298% year over year. And my orders went up 383% year over year. So like, these are like, that's why I am like just all in with Pinterest. Because it actually moves the needle.
Were you just only doing like organic Pinterest marketing, or have you
Yes.
done an ad strategy as well, like over the years? Has that been in the mix or?
Well, so I have tried a few, but you know, I didn't have all the things that you really need to have, which is an evergreen funnel that you've tested, that you know is just solid, right? And I definitely think that you need to have a lot of like really workable organic strategy working
Yeah.
for you before you add promoted pins or any sort of money behind it. And this
Totally.
is true for Meta, for Instagram. I mean, you need to have all these things in place. So but there's, you know, Pinterest has the highest return on ad spend, second to I think YouTube or something like that.
Mhm.
It's really up there. And you know, they're doing a lot with interest targeting on the platform. And so I've heard great success stories. Like I'm part of a Pinterest management mastermind, and a lot of managers inside that group say that they have just started promoting pins with a new client account right away and found tremendous results, which is surprising to me. But I know that it can be done, and yeah. But yes, to answer your question, I was only doing organic, with a few smatterings of very brief ad campaigns. One thing that is challenging when you are a one-of-a-kind designer is that you don't have production lines, right? So if you're funneling money into a sales funnel to go to a specific product, and there's only one product of that available, that's like just the cost versus reward doesn't really make sense for me in that situation. And that's basically my entire line is all one of a kind limited collection. So that's always been sort of a hindrance, or a mental hindrance to me, um to really go all in with promoted pins.
Wow. While we're on the topic of one of a kind, one of the questions we got from our listeners was, if you are doing one of a kind pieces, do you think it's better to direct people to your Instagram or your website?
Okay, this is such an easy question. Always, always, always send traffic to your owned property, your property that you own. Never, ever, ever, if you have the choice, send traffic away from the property you own to another platform that you have no control over, that has that could be hacked. Your account could get hacked. It could get banned. Hello, TikTok. This is probably happening for TikTok soon. These are these are platforms that we have no control over, and we get free use of them. But you know, never, ever, ever send traffic away from your website. In my opinion, that should be the main source. Like that, you should be funneling everything through your website.
Yeah.
Yes. And because going to your website, you're telling your brand story, you're capturing email addresses, your products
Yeah.
are obviously there's so many benefits. And I think that people get consumed with this like Instagram follower vanity metric. And it's just, there's so many things that we should be focused on rather than that.
Oh, I totally agree, which is my next point. Let's discuss the big meta pink elephant in the room, and how difficult Instagram can be for designers looking to get traction. You know, I mean, we talked about ads, right? Ads are getting super expensive, cost per click, because the auction is so competitive, right? We are well past the days where ads were super easy and you just turned them on. It was like turning on a faucet to revenue. It's just not that easy anymore. Also, it's designed to keep people on the platform and does not want you to leave outside. If that's how it's making its money, is by keeping users on their platform. So they don't want to send you outside of the ecosystem of Instagram. And then also Mark Zuckerberg has his own agenda and often pushes updates to the app that don't serve the users, but instead their own revenue goals. And so these are really frustrating things, when we're using this to try to market our business. And so that's why I love Pinterest, is because Pinterest is a search engine. It's very defined by its function, right? Just like Google is very defined by its function. Like Google wouldn't just suddenly be like, all right, guys, we're going to have a like button with all of the searches that come up for a website, and you can comment whether you like that website. It's a search engine. You go there to find answers to inquiries. So, and Pinterest is exactly the same way. And I know that they've try things. They have reactions now that you can have on pins with like little emojis. You can comment on pins and stuff like that. But really, at its heart, and it always at its heart, it's always been a search engine. And so, if you know how a search engine works and you know how to do keyword research, and then you're aligning your account with those keywords that you want to be discovered for, you're going to have success getting discovered, just because it can't help itself but to serve relevant information with a search query. And so I love that you have way more control over how your content gets distributed on the platform than you do with Instagram, because you just have no idea what kind of black box witchery is happening behind the scenes
No idea.
on a particular day.
I know. I was talking to someone who had a call with Meta. They like asked to have a call and they were pushing threads. They were like, the best thing you can do for your business is to post regularly on threads. And I was like, what are they talking about? This
Yeah.
is crazy.
Exactly. It's like they don't even care about your agenda. They only care about pushing their own. And so that's really frustrating. And, and also like with Pinterest, I can set it and forget it. Like, and I've done that. Sometimes I've gone way too long of setting it and forgetting it. Because I just get busy doing other things. But you really can. Like, it's a long game. And it takes a little bit to get going. I just really encourage people to stick with it, even when you're not seeing results, just because it is that long game. But once you sort of get momentum on the platform, it's pretty easy to maintain, because then like you have that momentum and you don't need to like feed the beast like crazy, not like on a daily basis where you're like making a new reel every day for Instagram. Like you could literally like do a really targeted pin campaign, maybe do like feature a few product URLs, and just like use a scheduler, pin them, schedule them out, and then just like forget that Pinterest even exists for a long time before you
Yeah.
have to like sort of redo that process again. But it's just super easy to maintain once you do get that momentum, and then you just kind of get this awesome consistent traffic that's being referred to your site on a monthly basis, and it's very reliable.
I have a
very
question.
cool. Oh, go
Yeah.
ahead, Laryssa.
Okay, so this is a selfish question because this was like a client conversation I had the other day. I was auditing a client's like full social media scope. Pinterest, of all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, blah, 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 whatever, was driving the most traffic to their website. But they claimed, and again, you know how it's hard to attribute stuff in Google Analytics. They claimed that everything Meta was resulting in more actual conversions. And so they kind of been ignoring Pinterest because it's not the money driver. However, also important to know, I believe they are spending money on Meta and not Pinterest. Like, what would you say to a client like that that's like, oh, why should we bother with Pinterest, even though it is bringing us traffic, but it doesn't seem to be making money?
Well, so just like any platform, there's sort of a strategy that you can sort of apply that sort of covers sort of the user mindset of that platform. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
And so I think that there is a lot of thought that you need to be sort of thinking about that with Pinterest, because Pinterest really is sort of a full funnel customer journey that it sort of exists on the platform. So like, but when I say that, when people do a search, when they're in the research phase, like they have a wedding coming up or something, and they're like making boards of like wedding cakes and bridal gowns and all of this stuff. And they're really sort of just browsing the platform to gather ideas to save to their boards. And then once they've like sort of gone through that process and they revisit their boards to look at all of these ideas that they were saving and gathering, and then those boards sort of act like a virtual shopping list when they are ready to buy, when they're ready to make a purchase. And so, if you can sort of align your content to really tap into that whole sort of customer journey that exists on the platform, that's really going to help with your conversions. But if you're not being intentional about Pinterest and you're just noticing that it's an incredible traffic driver, but you're like, that's interesting, I don't know really why that's the case, but cool. Well, first of all, that's probably the case because Pinterest does want to send you traffic. I mean, that's the whole function of it, right? It's the middleman. It's like the butler being like, here's what you need. And then people go and click off Pinterest to go pursue the website that they just found. So, that's probably why Pinterest is sending the most traffic, because it's designed to be a traffic referral. But if you're being intentional about your Pinterest marketing, then that could be a completely different game. Because then you would really just set yourself up to optimize your conversions.
No, I agree. That's kind of what I said. I'm like, look, guys, look how much traffic you're getting. Now it's time to pay attention and like do something with this, But it can be a wake-up call because a lot of small businesses, they don't check in to see like where the sources are coming from. And it's kind of like a surprise to find like, oh my God, Pinterest, we're not even really doing a lot there. And holy crap, look at all this traffic we're getting.
Yeah, exactly. So, and you can definitely increase your conversions by being a lot more intentional about your Pinterest marketing. But yeah, I mean, Pinterest will send you traffic just for no reason at all.
I know. It
from
seems
your
like that.
From your like catalog pins, you know what I mean? So like, yeah. But if you're intentional about it, then that's the real power. But also I should mention that like, people are always like, well, how, because everyone wants sales, right? And that's, Pinterest's job really is to send you traffic. Conversions really are up to you when they get to your website. So like, yeah. So Pinterest is not responsible for making sales for you. That's not its job. Its job is to send people to your website. But if your website is crappy and you don't have a great defined customer journey, you're not answering the questions that people need, that people came to your site for, and your sales page or your checkout page is really clunky. Like if you're not set up to optimize, if your site is not set up for conversions, you're not going to convert. Like, it's just as simple as that. Like these tools that we use, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, these are tools that work in tandem with all the other things that you need to be doing, like email marketing, like a nurture sequence, like, building your email list with a lead magnet, doing really a great job with your content marketing. All these pieces really, like Pinterest itself is not going to make you a millionaire, like Pinterest with email marketing.
Yes.
I know. Say it louder.
Everyone in the back.
There's no silver bullet. And we know this. We've been in this world for a while now, and we understand that. But people want a silver bullet. They really do. They don't, they want to just be like, I just want a silver bullet that'll make me a millionaire, and just that's it. But it's not that easy. It's so much more, it's so much more nuanced than that.
Definitely. And I love what you're saying and what Laryssa was saying too about like just alignment and making sure you have a strategy and you're operating by a content strategy by creating goals and then creating that content within those goals to drive that strategy. I mean, it's just all the things need to be working together. There's not going to be one thing that is going
Exactly. And you have to really think about your content plan each quarter and not just be like, I don't know what to post today. I'll just post this random thing that has nothing to do with anything or aligned with any goal. I mean, it's just, the internet is changing, right? I mean, a lot of us were sort of early adopters to the internet when it first came onto the scene. But we're in a second phase of the internet reinventing itself with the rise of AI and all of that. Google search is changing greatly. That is really going to disrupt a lot of things. Like, it's going to take basically the top 3 sites for a search query and combine the best answer from those 3 sites and then put them at the top of search. So you don't even need to click into websites anymore to get the best answer, because it's going to take the AI is going to take all that content from those top 3 results and get and basically formulate the best response, and it's just going to be right there in search. So no one, it's like, okay, well, what happened to clicks to your website? This is scary, and so like we're entering just a new phase. I mean, and this is another reason why Pinterest is so great, because like even the SEO tech bros are coming to Pinterest because like of all the crazy stuff that's happening right now. And so yeah. So what was I totally went on a rabbit hole tangent there.
I loved that whole tangent. I think Laryssa loved it too.
I loved
we're here
it.
for it.
I know, that's our clip for this episode.
I know, definitely. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have to do multiple clips because there's just like so many quotes. There's so much good stuff already. Okay, we're gonna ask you one more question from a listener, then we're going to move on to our bonus content. But this was from a listener. How do you think about making Pinterest a habit? Like, what's enough activity there?
Yeah. So this question is a little putting the cart before the horse. Because if your account is not optimized for the keywords you want to be discovered for, the results from your activity will likely be very disappointing. And so, I would say first, you really need to put the work in to do all of your keyword research, to optimize all of your board titles, your board descriptions. I have a spreadsheet of all of my keywords, including my level 1 keywords and then my secondary keywords that I use to help me write all my board descriptions as well. So every single piece of property on my Pinterest profile has a very specific function that I have completely optimized it for. And so then once you have that done, because then that's really sort of building the highway from your account to Pinterest. And then we can start talking about pinning frequency and all of that. But I would say if people are just getting into Pinterest, the optimization is often a step that people skip because it's work and it's work. I mean, it takes me, it's a process for me to do this for clients, so I get it. I've done a lot of account optimizations and it's not exactly the most fun work to do, but it's essential work because everything else that follows won't matter if you don't have a good, strong foundation, right? That's with anything in life, right? So having that strong foundation, and then, the pinning, it doesn't take much, like 5 fresh pins a day. That's not terrible, I do a lot more than that because I go hard and all in. But yeah, 5 fresh pins a day, you're good, but that's assuming that you've done the work to build that great foundation.
I've loved
An investment.
all of this. I want to point out like just how impressive Andrea is in general, just like making it happen for her business, because that's what you need to do. You can't just sit here and be passive and expect your business to happen. You have to do it, and you're doing it. And I'm like just endlessly impressed by you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, it just like that is true, and I've seen this too with a lot of students, and you can sort of tell which students are going to really be powerhouses, because they show up, they're on it, they are overachievers, they're motivated, they're ambitious, and like that's the kind of like sort of attitude that it requires to gain success, because this is hard. This is not easy, you guys. I mean, like this is difficult. First of all, we're selling a luxury product that no one needs, right? And so all the marketing that people are always talking about, just solve a problem. It's just like, oh, really? What problem are we solving here? Like
Yeah,
more
there's no
confidence in the
problem.
board, like what are we solving exactly? And so like, I think it's extra difficult when you're marketing a product that is completely luxury, right? So, and then online, like we're talking about, it's just changing, right? The internet's getting more complicated. Things are getting harder. Platforms are getting more crowded. And so, this is not as easy, and it really wasn't easy even in the beginning. But it's even getting harder. And I don't want to dissuade anyone from saying that. I always feel like I'm going to scare people off when I talk about that piece of it. But this is not a passive thing if you want this to really work.
Totally. Marketing is work.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. How can designers work with you?
Yes. So if you guys are a DIYer and you're like, I just want to learn how to do this on my own, and maybe you want to join my community and sign up for my emails, you can go to redpingeek.com/ultimate Pinterest starter guide. And I can actually send you these links too. You can just put them below your thing. And then if you're interested in Pinterest management services, you can contact me directly at Andrea@andrealee.com. And then I also have a ton of free resources on my website, redpingeek.com/jewelers-guide.
All right, insiders, let's keep this conversation going. There's already been so much great information, but I wanted to talk specifically about best practices for the platform because I know like other platforms, they change a lot. And I think that that's what's confused me about it and it kind of swayed me away from the platform is just I don't understand what's going on. Laryssa, I feel like you're kind of in the same boat as me with that.
Yeah, totally. I get that. Pinterest sort of had like a dumpster fire a couple of years ago when they were really pushing idea pins. They sort of slid into meta territory with that particular product. And like there were so many things that product cause problems. So, as you can see, no more idea pins. All idea pin formats are now considered video pins. So they got rid of that pin format, which was causing a lot of havoc and was sort of alienating their base of creators and all of that. It was funny. That's the product that I was actually a beta tester for.
What was
But so
the
I
issue with it? Like, why were people
so
so upset about it?
So basically, a lot of creators were not okay with the fact that they didn't have links. So Pinterest was trying to do sort of like a Reels thing, TikTok thing, because like everyone was trying to copy TikTok at the time. And it was the first time that they did not allow their creators to link out to their websites with the idea pin format. And the idea was with the idea pin format was to keep people on the platform because the idea pin was like basically it was a multi-panel pin that walked you through, that gave you basically all the information that you would normally tease with a pin
Right.
and then get people to click over to your site. This was sort of like giving you all the information that you needed, so you didn't even need to click to the website. But then
Right.
also Pinterest was like, we're not going to even give you the ability to click to your website.
Mhm.
So this really did not sit well with creators at all. And I'm not sure, but I think the format was encoded incorrectly on the website, which caused them to flood everybody's feed, which was great for early adopters of the pin format because the distribution on this pin format was insanity. Like I remember I posted an idea pin one time and it just went bananas. It went so viral. It was insane. And this was just like, I don't think they meant to do that because they have things built into their algorithm that prevents a particular pin format from taking over the platform. But yeah, there was just a lot of pushback from the creators. And I think they also lost a lot of Google rankings. And so they're like, ooh, so they had to
Mhm.
backpedal a little bit on that one. But really, the best practices are still the same as from the very beginning, just standard pins. You know what I mean? Like that, like, like for especially with that whole idea pin debacle. I am just like, I'm just gonna stick with the classics, baby, because like a lot of times when Pinterest tries things, people are like, "Oh, I don't like this," and so, and then they're like, "Oh," and then it's just like you're always going to be best going with the classics, and so, using just the standard pin format, which is the 2:3 aspect ratio. I think it's 1,000 by 1,500. um and making beautiful pin, like, I'll use that format for a blog post. I'll usually create 5 different pin designs for the standard pin format. I might make a video pin to go with that, to that URL as well. And one thing I should mention is that you guys should definitely be doing really valuable, useful content marketing for Pinterest, because that is sort of like the Pinterest mindset in the beginning, especially. Pinterest is great for top of the funnel, right? Because the people that encounter your brand for the first time on Pinterest are likely not familiar with your brand, right? They found your brand through search, and you just
Mhm.
happen to have content that matched their search query, and that's how they found your brand. Very rarely will people go onto Pinterest and search for a brand specifically, unless you're like a mega brand like Cartier or something like that, or Louis Vuitton.
Mhm.
But typically, people are just looking for like a sterling silver pendant necklace.
Mhm.
And then if you have a sterling pendant necklace, boom. But also, like, think about the other things that your ideal client might be struggling with. Like, maybe they have a bunch of silver jewelry in their jewelry box that's like black from tarnish, and they don't know how to remove that. That could be a great piece of content that you could put out on Pinterest, that people would probably be searching for a solution. And then if you have a solution, you can get them over to your site, and have a way to convert them with some sort of lead magnet, get them on your list, and then really nurture that lead, that came initially to your website because, you created a really valuable piece of content that actually somehow made their life instantly better. And that could
Mhm.
be, maybe, um, how to wear statement necklaces, or how to layer necklaces, or how to create a capsule collection, or, so stuff like that. You think about the sort of ancillary topics that someone who's interested in jewelry might have, or need to figure out, you know, how to do it. Whether it's, maybe not everyone is a stylist, and also we are in our own world of jewelry, and so like we're like, oh, layering necklaces, that's not anything special because I do that every day.
Mhm.
But a lot of, there's people that don't know how to do that, and so, thinking of that type of content in addition to your jewelry is going to help you get success on Pinterest as well. Uh,
Do you need to be repinning other people's pins?
so yes, so that's a great question. So we've all heard about repinning other people's pins, and that is a sound strategy, but really only in the beginning, especially like when you first create a new board for your account. Pinterest will pop up a window and it'll be like, oh, I have some pins that I think belong on your board based off the keywords that you just used to name this board. And it's basically showing you all the high ranking pins that have keywords associated with your new board. And so, to shorten that learning curve of Pinterest's algorithm understanding your brand new board, right? You just made this board, has no idea what this board is about. But if you see that board with this high ranking content that actually is relevant to that board topic, you are basically aligning your board with high ranking content that Pinterest already understands and knows how to distribute across its platform. And so you're just going to basically shorten that learning curve so Pinterest understands your brand new board and is able to really aptly deliver that content once you start pinning to it. So yes, repinning is important, but really only in the beginning when you're optimizing a brand new board.
Got it. I am looking at your Pinterest page right now because I haven't been on Pinterest in a while, but now you're inspiring me. I'm like, I have to get on and try it. Laryssa, are you feeling that way too? Do you use Pinterest?
I sometimes, definitely when I was planning my wedding, I was using it a lot, like everyone else planning a wedding. I have a question about that repinning and board creation.
Mhm.
Like, should there be a balance between, let's say you make a new board, between like your own pins versus pins you're repinning, or is that only important, like you said at the beginning, when you're just getting started?
Yeah. So in the beginning, basically when I create a new board, I'm not pinning any of my own pins because I want that board to be fully optimized
Mm,
before I pin my content to it, right? So I'm using other people's content to help optimize it because I want that board to be ready to deliver my content once I start pinning to it.
I
So
looking at your
what?
gold earrings. I'm looking at your gold earrings board and you have like a pair of Cartier earrings and like that kind of aligns with what you're saying of like something that Pinterest would understand. And
Hmm.
then you have like a handful of pins that are like repins and then it's all your work
And all my blog content as
and
well.
all your
Yep.
blog content. Yeah. Very cool. Very
Thank
cool.
you.
Something else I'm like looking at your page and I'm like, and we've talked about this before when you came to talk to the Stay Gold Collective, but like it's a lot of work from a content perspective of like blog posts, creating graphics and things like that. Do you have any tips or tricks to like make that feel a little more streamlined?
Well, I just wrapped a new course that I just created to help automate all of that for you. Basically, using AI
Awesome.
assisted tools that will help you do that. And the course also just comes with a bunch of like pin templates and everything, so you can really be automated in that department. It teaches you, like it gives you prompts so you can easily come up with your pin text overlay, super easy. Your pin, it'll write your pin descriptions and your pin titles super easy. It will even like you can just like you can go. It just shortens your production time so greatly. And the course just walks you through every single step and it just shows you how to automate it. And it's a very repeatable process. So once you go through it a few times, you sort of just like you're on autopilot at that point, and it's really fast to kick out stuff. So I mean, like I have mixed feelings about it, but I will tell you that with marketing and with as much time as this does take, and I get it, and this is the big pushback and a big reason why a lot of my students don't want to do blog posts
mhm.
because it just takes too long and they want to be at their bench. um but AI is so wonderful as like a virtual assistant. It like just help, it's not it's business owners are going to be separated by business owners who use AI to help them and those who don't. It's just one of those things that I really feel it's important if you want to stay in the game to learn to embrace. And listen, you can totally not have AI. Just like I would never recommend to anyone like the first draft out of the box. Go ahead
Yeah.
and just post. You know what I mean? You definitely need to do copy passes. You definitely need to add your tone and voice and your unique perspective.
Mhm.
That is so critical, especially now with the rise of AI and the fact that people can just go nuts creating all these AI articles and have these AI generated websites and all that. That's like a huge craze right now. So this is going to be more important that you really tailor your content to give context to your specific audience. I mean, that's going to be so important when you're approaching your content marketing going forward. It's not going to be enough just to have a really generic blog post.
I mean, I'm glad we're talking about blog posts because I'm a big proponent of content marketing beyond just like a Google SEO thing. Like there's so many ways you can repurpose it. And I love hearing about all the different benefits you can get from that with Pinterest as well.
It's huge. I mean, honestly, like it's definitely you'll it's easy to see because I have like metrics, pin metrics on a blog post pin of mine, the highest one of my blog post, and then also I took my biggest performer product pin, and it's like night and day. People just want to engage with stuff that will make their lives instantly better. And that's such an easier way to get clicks to your website is, and then you have a way to convert them, right? So, and then that's when the, conversion stuff happens is, having all your ducks in a row once you get them in your funnel. But people just love to interact with that type of content on Pinterest.
Love to
Um,
hear it.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. How do you brainstorm ideas? Do you just do like a brain dump? Do you like endlessly have ideas? Because sometimes I talk to designers and they're like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, and which that's a great question because I got that also as a main pain point when coming up with your content. But I always, since I'm a one of a kind designer, this is a fairly streamlined and easy process for me because I'm always creating a brand new collection. And so basically, what I'll do is I'll be like, okay, what are the is there new gemstones I might be working with that I could create a blog post on that particular gemstone to feature it?
Mhm.
What's the color palette? Is there something that I can write about? Like for this quarter, my next collection is going to be at like sort of a pastel sort of jewelry kind of collection with some Australian opals and some morganite and some aquamarine and just like really soft colors. And also Pantone's color of the year is peach fuzz,
Mhm.
which sort of tied nicely into the pastel pastiche. And so I created some blog content of like how to make pastel colors work for you. Different colors that different pastels work with. I did a blog post on morganite. So really blog posts that sort of will support this eventual new collection when I release it. And also giving, this is great repurposable content that I can give my list too, because those are where my collectors are, right? But I'm also helping them sort of style pastel jewelry and getting them primed for that too. So when I drop my pastel jewelry collection, they will have been thinking about this.
I love
So
that.
I always create my content with a purpose to support whatever new collection I'm building next.
You have such a strong brand on Pinterest, and I don't know if I've noticed Pinterest pages being like strongly branded. Are there any others like in your mind brands to look at that are doing Pinterest really well?
Well, it's super difficult to measure the success of a Pinterest account because you as a user can't see the metrics that really matter in defining someone's
Right.
success on Pinterest. Like you can see their monthly views, but that is a vanity metric. That is a crazy vanity metric. There's no indication of a person's success on Pinterest with that metric. And then you also get to see their followers, which also, followers do get you more visibility because anytime that you publish a pin, anyone who's following you, your pins that you publish will automatically go into their home feed. So you do get more visibility, but that doesn't necessarily mean clicks to your website either. So it's super hard to really be like, is that an account that's doing really
Yeah,
well?
that's so
You know what
true.
I mean? So, there's like, you can look at, I think it's useful if you are looking for like aesthetic inspiration, maybe about like certain brands that you might like and just like looking at the aesthetic of like their pins and like their board covers or whatever. That could be useful, but like it's impossible to know if an account is actually really successful.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's interesting because, you look at an Instagram page and you're like, oh, this is like really strong. Like they share their brand story, I like following them. But for Pinterest, it's kind of like less about that. Like I'm guessing people don't often go to your profile page.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why Pinterest removed the shop tab last year is because they realized that like no one's going to anyone's profile page, you know. You're seeing their pins like all over the Pinterest platform. That's how you're encountering brands. You're not going to their actual profile. So yeah. So I mean, and there's like, you know, there's accounts that have you know, very few followers that kill it with clicks to their website. You know, so it's just like it's really hard to tell if a Pinterest account is actually really successful.
So talking about metrics, what I'm really curious about are like, what are the main KPIs that you're tracking? And then second part of that, are you looking directly in like Pinterest analytics dashboard, or do you use a reporting tool to like look at that information?
Yeah, those are great questions too. So I start in Pinterest for sure because it's just easy and it's all right there. A couple of things that one thing I would mention is, especially if your Pinterest account has sort of been around for a while, that you have the filter set to just pins from your URL, from your claim domain, that you're
Mm,
looking at those metrics and not just your overall, because your overall is going to have all of your repin data also with it.
right.
And we're really interested in wanting to know what our efforts specifically to our claim domain,
Mhm.
what kind of growth is happening from that. So have the filter set to your claim domain, and then you want to be looking at outbound clicks. You want to be looking at impressions. You want to be looking at engagements.
Mhm.
You want to be looking at saves. And then the last one is you want to be looking at total clicks. And I always would connect to an outside reporting tool as well. There are always discrepancies in reporting. So it's
Mhm.
really good to have a few to sort of compare the data and just sort of take the average of that.
Mhm.
And that's usually pretty, but there's times when like Pinterest and analytics have a glitch, you know, like
Yeah.
you know, there was like a glitch last year around March that accounts that weren't pinning like 3 pins a day or something, like their analytics like something happened that was a major glitch. So like glitches can definitely happen, which is another reason why you want to have multiple reporting agencies that your
Mhm.
main property, your website is connected to.
Is there one you recommend? A tool?
Well, Google Analytics, of course. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
hopefully you made it over before they got rid of Universal. Um, and yeah, and I mean that's the one I just have basically Pinterest and Google. GA4,
Oh,
and
okay, okay.
then I have Search Console attached to
Okay.
my website as well.
Ah,
But like, you know, also those like, you know, Google is way more crazy. I mean, that's their thing is, and so there's a lot of more capabilities that you can do. It's more complicated, but there's like
mhm.
capabilities like tracking UTMs, right? So if you're doing like a promoted pin campaign and you want to know if pin A is outperforming pin B, and you can set that up in the ads manager as well, but like you can also assign a UTM to be able to track a very specific asset that you want to see what the results are.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is a lot. This is so much great information. Last question before we wrap up here. How do you continue refining your strategy over time?
Always be testing because platforms change, user behavior changes. And so you will, you know, it's so exciting when you find something that works, but don't get too comfortable there, right? Because we all know that what used to work no longer works now. And so you have to constantly be testing, trying things, evaluating the results, and then creating a strategy to support and scale those
Mhm.
results, right? So, you know, database marketing, and then just trying, right? Always be testing.
I love that. That's great advice. Well, thank you so much for being here. Again, the links we'll put in the notes of this episode, redpingeek.com and Andrea at andrealee.com. Sign up for her email list because there's so many great resources there. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks.